Let's bring in Alexandra Bilak. She's the director of the Internal Displacement Monitoring Center. She's joining us from Geneva. Welcome to Al Jazeera. Thanks for your time. So as we're saying, the number of internally displaced is at an all-time high at 71.1 million. Tell us what you think is behind these numbers.
Thank you very much. Indeed, our global report on internal displacement this year paints a rather bleak picture of the world today. There have never been this many people internally displaced globally. We're counting now over 70 million IDPs, which is roughly twice the number that there were a decade ago and 20% more than just last year alone. Now, much of this increase has been driven by the war in Ukraine, where we are looking at nearly 6 million people still living internally displaced across the country today, but also by major floods in Pakistan, the drought in the Horn of Africa, and a number of other new and ongoing conflicts, as well as sudden and slow onset disasters from the Americas to the Pacific. So our report makes for rather grim reading, but also reflects the fact that internal displacement is increasingly being caused by a combination of political instability, of social, of economic, and of environmental factors.
Right, and when we look at the situation in Ukraine, I mean, you were just saying that the report certainly highlights the war in Ukraine, but also the war did contribute to a global food security crisis. So how hard did that hit the internally displaced people?
Well, this year's report puts the spotlight on the issue of food security, which is an issue that has come up repeatedly in our monitoring activities across the globe. We're seeing a visible overlap between many of the countries with the highest numbers of IDPs and countries that are currently facing acute levels of food insecurity or higher. So clearly the global food crisis that has been partially driven by the war in Ukraine has had a dramatic impact on already vulnerable and food insecure, vulnerable and displaced populations. And we can see a correlation between displacement, so IDPs who are particularly vulnerable within a food insecure context, and displacement itself, the experience of displacement that aggravates the conditions and the well-being of already highly vulnerable populations.
Right, and just going forward, what does the report recommend in order to reduce the number of IDPs?
Well, first, looking at the food security issue specifically, there are a lot of recommendations based on the good practices that we've seen out there, promising approaches when it comes to providing the essential cash assistance that is needed for IDPs to be able to overcome some of the barriers that they face during displacement, for social protection programs that can bridge the needs from the immediate humanitarian emergency to longer-term recovery and development. But more broadly, what we are calling for is for better data and understanding of the relationship that exists between food insecurity and internal displacement, for much more integrated planning and financing to be able to, as I said, bridge the gap that we're still seeing between humanitarian and development planning, and to accompany governments in taking leadership on this issue in the future.
Thank you so much for speaking to us from Geneva. Alexandra Bilak, thank you.
Thank you.